Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Navs Effect podcast. I'm your host, Amin Ganglani. It is a Wednesday, September 25. As we record this, we are live on playback. We are live on YouTube. We are also live on Facebook. Well, we are about to be live on Facebook. Anyway, it's a great episode that we have on today. I'm super excited. We have Quentin Millora-Brown, one of the key new recruits of the UP Fighting Maroons, joining us as we discuss his time so far in the Philippines, how he's adjusting to the UAAP life, and everything else that maybe he could have planned as he embarks on this next journey of his basketball career. Quentin is already here, I believe. We are in going to invite him on the stage momentarily. By the way, what a great day for UAAP hoops, right? Just want to say, if you guys watch the games, you know what I'm talking about. If you missed it, well, here's what happened. FEU kept it close. In fact, they only trailed DLSU by 3 points in the final minutes of the basketball game. And then the Adamson NU game, the second game of Wednesday's action, ends up in a game winning shot by Josh Rayero at the buzzer, a lob off the baseline for Josh Rayero to nail that game winning shot designed by assistant coach of Adamson, Gilbert Lau. Before that, Manansala of NU had hit a runner to tie the game at 58 all. And then with point 0.3, yes, 0.3 seconds left on the game clock. I can't remember the last time there was a game winner like this in the UAP, zero point 0.3 seconds. That's like Derek Fisher levels. Um, but it happened. They designed a play out of bounds, got it off his hand quickly. Adamson won the game. What a great day for UAP Hoops. And we have more UAP Hoops to come for the rest of the season. But first, let's get to know one of the key new marquee players of UAP basketball. Don't go anywhere. We will begin this episode shortly. In the meantime, I would like you guys to watch this quick interview I did with Kevin Quiambao, reigning MVP of the UAAP, earlier as he talked about what being a new father means to him. Yes, KQ's son was born on, I believe it was early Wednesday morning, September 25, and he was kind enough to share a few words about it shortly before DLSU's game earlier. So let's take a listen.
Feeling blessed sa new journey for me, new beginnings, and then ayun, embrace ko lang yung bagong journey ko. First of all, thank you kay God. First si God and then family ko and then itong new family ko. So, it means a lot to me and sobrang laking factor niya and then ayun, sana ma-carry on ko yung momentum na may inspired ako na dahil nagkaroon ako ng bagong baby. Syempre, yung makita ko panganak. Pero iba pa din yung nag-champion kami. Meron meron merong place sa heart ko yung parehas na championship and then yung bagong baby. I think, di ko na alam. Pero, ayun, laban lang. So, feeling blessed sa new journey for me, new beginnings. And then, ayun, embrace ko lang yung bagong journey ko. First of all, thank you kay God. First si God and then family ko and then itong new family ko. So, it means a lot to me and sobrang laking factor niya and then ayun, sana ma-carry on ko yung momentum na may inspired ako na dahil nagkaroon ako ng bagong baby. Syempre, yung makita ko panganak. Pero iba pa din yung nag-champion kami. Meron merong place sa heart ko yung parehas na championship and then yung bagong baby. I think, di ko na alam. Pero, ayun, laban lang.
Okay, everybody, what did you all think of what Kevin Kimball had to say about being a father and playing in today's game? Just for those of you who weren't able to keep up with the news, well, Kevin didn't join the post game press conference after the game because he said he wasn't feeling well. And I believe it was also to get back to his kid, which was totally understandable. Now, Quentin is going to join us shortly. We're just working on some technical matters here. He is restarting his computer so he can come log on. I love that many of you are already sending questions in for QMB. Of course, he is one of the most exciting new players we have in the UAP. We're only going to get to watch him for one season, but hopefully he becomes a mainstay in Philippine basketball for the long term. And like I mentioned earlier, you guys will get to ask questions. So send them in. I will ask them later. And also, there will be an opportunity for those of you who want to come on the stage and ask QMB the question yourself to do so. So he'll be here shortly. Just an update on the UAAP standings while we wait for our friend QMB. Right now, UP still leads everyone with a 4-0 record. They are the only undefeated team left in the UAAP. LaSalle second at 4-1. Adamson is 3-2. UE is 2-2. FEU at the bottom of the standings, unfortunately at 0-5 right now. NU 1-4. The loss of Diasan has really been a major problem for them, but they are trying their best. They are in these close games. Ateneo 1-3. They play their next game on Sunday, I believe. And UST 3-1. UST with a very big test coming up against LaSalle on Sunday, a game I am very eager to see how the Growling Tigers will perform in. What a good early test for UST and for LaSalle too. I mean, it hasn't exactly been an easy breeze for LaSalle. They were locked in a very tight game against NU, which they could have lost. They lost to UE. They were in a close game against winless FEU. They didn't struggle, but they were sloppy for most of their game against Ateneo, which they won because Ateneo also did not end up playing well. And of course, the one win they had, which was impressive, was against Adamson. So let's see how they perform. And look, that LaSalle UP rematch is coming soon in about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, even, right? Wow, it's going to be soon. It's what I think will be another finals match of the season, so it might be a preview. Definitely, though, it's going to be entertaining, I think, and there's a lot to look out for. Quentin Millora-Brown is now here with us. I have sent him an invite to join us on the stage, so he should be joining us here momentarily, and we cannot wait to learn more about QMB and who he is and the player he aspires to be. And speaking of the man, Quentin Millora-Brown is with us right now. QMB, welcome to the Navs Effect podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here. It is a pleasure to have you here, even if it was late at night. Thank you for your time, your consideration. Thanks for joining me. How are you doing, man? That's my first question. How are you spending your off day? You know, when you told me earlier practice ended early, I'm like, whoa, Coach Gold, is he starting to
Oh,
like let up a little bit? We know he likes these long practices. So you got a little bit of an off day today?
well, first of all, thanks for having me here. Yes, so we did. We did have an off day today. I decided to, coach, he likes to have the 2 days before the game and then the game. So with us not playing from Sunday all the way till Saturday, he decided to give us today off. But I'm
Fantastic.
doing well. I'm doing well.
I'm so happy to hear it. I'm so happy you're here. It's an episode I've been looking forward to do for a while now. Let's go and trace your Filipino roots. When did you first start understanding more about your Filipino culture? We know your lolo was an alumnus of University of the Philippines back about 40, 50 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. There was an interesting article that came out on
63
spin.ph about that. Exactly,
is when he
1963.
graduated.
So that's where you first got the taste of UP. But how about you being a Filipino? When did you first understand your Filipino roots?
Man, from a really young age, I have a really close knit family, so I think a lot of Filipinos will identify with that close, tight knit family, but also a big family. So for me, just like going to my grandparents' house and like all of my titas being there and all of the cousins just being there, like really like that kind of culture of love and just togetherness has always been a part of my life.
Are you one of those guys who also loves to say, "Oh yeah, I loved lumpia growing up"? Because a lot of the foreigners we have from out of town, they're like, "Yeah, we love lumpia." I mean, did you love lumpia or did you love lumpia?
Absolutely loved it. My Lola was actually that was the thing she made the best. All of the family, whenever the fryer was going, which would be pretty much the whole day when we would be there, everyone would be fighting over who could get the first out of the batch. Everyone would be trying to get the first bite and then burning their tongues. But it's I really have an appreciation for all food. So not just lumpia. I love everything. I like all the different things that are part of Philippine culture, like pancit, bihon, dinuguan, everything.
Wow. So we got our friend Mateo as part of the community here being like, nah, don't be that guy who'll say adobo is the best. Because a lot of the guys love to say that. Have you had adobo yet, though? Do you like adobo?
Of course, of course, of course.
Fantastic, fantastic.
It's-
You know, I've never really asked anyone coming from out of town this, but did you by any chance make a list or kind of like a objective, items that you wanted to do when you got to the Philippines that you always were curious about when you weren't living in the Philippines, and then you told yourself, once I get to the Philippines, I want to cross this off, I want to cross. Now I know you don't get a lot of time off because of UP's practices and the games and whatnot, and you got here shortly before the season started, but are there some items you've at least been able to check one by one?
Um, Obviously, seeing UP itself, just kind of hearing my grandfather tell stories about it, hearing my grandfather tell stories about his time in Subic and Manila, and just seeing the differences. It's grown a ton from what he told me. When he was a kid, way back when he was telling me all about the like, just you could just go out and it was you and nature. And then obviously now it's a little different. There's a little more buildings. Metro Manila is huge and sprawling. It was always big, but it's just getting bigger. But hearing his stories, like just trying to see life the way he experienced it growing up, it was a big thing on my list of like, that's what I really want to do. Be able to appreciate the culture he grew up in. Be able to learn a little bit more about how he views life. And I think that it's been great so far, just in learning so much about oops, the Philippine culture and being in the Philippines, what that really means.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, where in the United States did you grow up, by the way?
I grew up just outside of Washington, D.C. in Virginia.
Got you, got you. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a pretty substantial Filipino community in those areas because there are actually quite a few basketball players who come out of that area, right?
Yes, yes, they're definitely. So Brandon Chaka, Jordan Bartlett are both guys I grew up and played against. So they were here as well. Played in UAAP. But there's a huge Philippine population, West Coast, of course, and then in Virginia Beach area, there's a very large population as well. And then the Northern Virginia area is also growing, but not quite as big as those other places.
Got you. Thank you for enlightening us on that. Of course, it's always nice to know what communities are out there in the United States because a lot of people, they say California. They'll even go as far to say Eagle Rock in California to be specific, right? Or Carson City, San
Hmm.
Francisco, maybe a lot of people in San Diego, but in the East Coast, we don't hear much. But I think it's, Chicago has a few areas too, New York, I'm sure, and like you
Hmm.
said, Virginia,
Yeah.
Washington. So take us through your high school and collegiate journey in the United States. If I'm not mistaken, you ended up playing for three Division 1 programs in the US. But before that, where do you high school ball? Who else recruited you, and how did you end up, having a unique journey in your collegiate basketball life?
Yeah, so starting in high school, I started at Bishop O'Connell for my freshman and sophomore and junior year. They were playing in one of the best leagues in America, WCAC, playing against DeMatha, Gonzaga, PVI, where there's a ton of different guys come out of there. Jeremy Roach, just like huge guys. All every year, there's at least two or three guys who big names. But out of high school, I went to Rice University in Houston, Texas, another place where there's a large Filipino population. Um, but out of high school, like my parents always pushed me to like succeed in both academics as well as basketball. So for me, education was a huge part of my decision making in college. Like, where do I go? Like, for me, it was a huge. I want to play basketball at the highest level, but also achieve the most I can academically. So I chose Rice my first year, and then I transferred after that year, just wanting to achieve more with basketball, wanting to play at a higher level, wanting to do more because I knew I could. So I went to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, another really great school, but they're in the SEC, which is a much better conference basketball wise. So there I was able to play, fortunately, able to play under Coach Stackhouse. and just learn so much. Coach Dak's knowledge of basketball is amazing, and just
Mm-hmm.
teaching the game, teaching how to think the game, how to read the game. So much of just who I am as a player today came from his coaching. And then after that, I ended up at the Citadel. I followed a coach after graduating Vanderbilt. I followed one of the coaches who was there, Citadel, Coach Conroy, and I have an amazing relationship with him too. Coach Conroy is just the best. Like, he just always is trying to give me confidence. Like, if I call him and just chat with him, like, he wants to know about you as a play more than just a player. Like, he wants to develop you as a person as well. So just with going to the Citadel, it was for me a matter of just I loved Coach Conroy and wanted to be coached by him. Um, and then after that, it was what do I do next? How do I get to that next level? And UP came into that conversation, and I ended up here.
Fantastic. I'm sure many people at UP are very happy to have you. We are joined by Quentin Millora-Brown. We are live on playback on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. It would be very much appreciated. So, I was told early on, even when you weren't at UP yet, but there were whispers about UP being very interested in you, that one of the aspects that made people wonder if you would commit to playing basketball in the Philippines was because you were excelling not just in the basketball court but in the classroom as well. There might have been opportunities for you outside the basketball court that you would have wanted to pursue. Maybe you can confirm this in a little bit. I was told you even interned at the SpaceX program. I'm not sure if I got okay. That information wasn't accurate. Okay, but that was going around, so I was wondering if that was actually true. So
That would have
going
been
back
really
to your
cool.
that would have been very. I was gonna ask you what's Elon Musk like, but going back to your upbringing, you mentioned how your parents were quite particular about your academics and not just being an athlete, but being a student athlete. I just have to ask: was your mom or your dad one of those parents that were like, "Yeah, you gave us 20 points, 10 rebounds, but you only got like a C+ in the test or something like that"? What was their
Never.
upbringing of you like, and how did they shape you into the man you are today?
So actually, growing up, I didn't see my grades until I got to middle school. My mom was a big believer in, so she's in museum education. So for her, her philosophy was you should learn to love to learn. You shouldn't be
Mm,
worried about grades. You shouldn't be worried about results because
wow.
that's not really what matters. If you love to learn, you'll find a way to learn. So, growing up as a kid, it was always whenever we had questions, she would she would answer what she could, but there were a lot of things that she can't answer. So she would say, "Well, you can find that out. Show us." So she showed us how to use the library. She showed us how to look things up online, how to find different sources. So for her, it was a matter of trying to teach us how to learn on our own and how to just love it. Like, when you find things you're interested in and you keep continuing to go deeper and deeper, you just you find something you're passionate about. So for her, she just wanted us, me and my sister, to love learning, and she tried to foster that in us from a young age. My dad was always working, but when he was around, for him, he was always trying to tinker with stuff. That's how he relaxes. Like, he just builds stuff or things that small things that can help make life a little easier. So kind of putting those two together is how I ended up pursuing mechanical engineering, which I'm sure is probably where we're going with this question.
Absolutely, yes. And thank you to Emil. Hello to you too. Thanks for tuning in. And that is great. Your mom telling you grades don't matter. You just have to love to learn. It makes me think of what I would want to do if I ever, hopefully in the future I get to raise a kid. That would be the kind of mindset I would love to have, where I don't want my kid to feel bad because they didn't get like a perfect score in an exam. And I think time has proven to us that just because you get the most awesome grades, you're book smart, doesn't mean you're going to be street smart. It doesn't mean that you're going to have all the answers in the future. But if you're resourceful and you know, you can be creative sometimes with different ways of approaching things, you can find different ways to succeed. And thank you for sharing that with us. And props to your mom, props to your dad for helping raise you kids that way, because clearly the way you, and I'm sure your sister too, have been brought up, they're very proud. I would be. And hopefully in the future, I get to use that knowledge too. So thank you for that. Now, you have been at UP for a while now. What are your impressions of the university so far? What do you like about it? What do you find a little eccentric? Tell us about it.
Um, Honestly, I love the campus. It's gorgeous. Just the way that campus is just feels so quiet within like a bustling area. Like once you're on campus, unless you're like by the gates, it doesn't necessarily feel like, oh, I'm in Metro Manila, Quezon City. It feels more like this is kind of its own space, its own entity. Honestly, the rain was the biggest thing for me. Just how much it rains here. My mom and Lolo were always they were telling me it's gonna rain a lot. It's gonna rain a lot. It's fine, but it was just still an adjustment. Just how much it rains here. Like every day,
Have you
it's
ever been
raining
stuck
all
in
the time.
nightmare Manila traffic? Sorry, I just have to ask. Have you ever
Oh
been stuck
yes.
in like Manila rush hour?
Yes. One time I just it was like 4:30 ish. We went out to the mall, SM North, and we were driving back, and I was like, "Ooh, this is
Ooh.
not the right time to be driving back towards campus from SM North."
Oh my god. So it must have taken you like 1.5 hours to get back or something like that, right?
Easily, it
Definitely.
felt like way longer.
Anyway, go on. You were saying about UP.
Uh, Honestly, like my first couple of weeks here, I was at University Hotel, so I really was able to feel what it's like to be on campus just all the time. The like walking around at night is really nice when it's not so hot, and
Mm-hmm.
it's quieter, but it just feels peaceful. Like everything just feels kind of peaceful on campus to me.
Peaceful. I like that. And it's very serene with all the greenery nearby,
Hmm.
and how you could be walking one place to the next, and it's like a different environment, different energy about it. I'm sure
Hmm.
you're getting to experience that every day. UP, I know that you only seriously considered UP because of ties for your lolo in terms of playing college basketball here, but were there efforts made by other schools to possibly recruit you at certain points?
I really let my the people who I talked to, I let them
Mm,
handle who was talking to them here. So UP for me was the top of my list just with my ties. So I don't really put myself in all that stuff if I can
I
avoid it.
see. Of course, yeah, and it makes sense too. What was the key that made you decide I want to go to UP? Because they had been trying to, I mean, they had been talking to you for a few years, trying to build a relationship, but they never really pressured you. But at the same time, they really wanted you too, and I'm sure you knew that. So for you personally, what was the key factor in you finally saying, you know what, I might actually go and play basketball at UP?
The fact that I had the opportunity to play as well as it being a way of like creating more ties in Asia as well outside
Mm,
of college programs, being able to connect with more pros and continuing my career as well. Hopefully, after I'll have the opportunity to, but just it made the right sense to me. It felt like the right fit, the right choice.
Did any players of UP like maybe try to recruit you as well? And did you know anyone from the team before you arrived?
No, I didn't know anyone from the team before I arrived. But yeah, just honestly, just it felt like the right fit from all of the check boxes that I had in terms of my future goals.
Fantastic, fantastic. I have a few more questions, and I want to get to the questions from our spectators because there are a lot. This one I have to ask though, because this I'm very curious about too. Have you tried the tapa at Rodix yet?
Of course, of course.
What do you think? Give us your honest assessment.
It's good. It's good. I have to order 2 plates if I'm gonna get it though. I'm a big guy, so if I order it, I order two.
So is that like an adjustment for you, the portions and serving sizes in the Philippines? Because I know in the US Your serving sizes are huge, man. But here in the Philippines, it's an adjustment, right?
Uh, a little bit, but also in the U.S., like I still tend to order a couple of things just because if I'm, I'm usually really hungry after practice, right? So, or I need to
Mm-hmm.
be carb loading for games. So, just
Mm-hmm.
it's not too much of an adjustment for me. Like ordering two things has been something I've done a lot of my life because I might not finish both, but then I'll take whatever I have left home, and by the time I'm home, I'll finish that portion. So, it takes a lot of calories to play um, all the time.
Well, of course, I mean, and this training itself for you guys, all those like drills and the weights and the scrimmages, you do need your carbs for that for sure. And you'll probably burn in like 1 hour or two with the intensity of how much you guys go. Now, to those watching on Facebook and Playback YouTube, send in your questions in about 4 minutes or so. We're gonna start taking questions from people. I'll also get back to some of the questions sent earlier. Q, I must ask, would you one day like to play for the Philippine men's national basketball team?
That would be an amazing opportunity if I could get it, but we'll see. Just right now, I'm just focusing on playing at UP and trying to win as many games as I can with the team.
I like that. I like that. So I assume that if I ask you, is your plan after college to apply for the draft, would that be the same answer? You don't know yet?
Don't know yet. Just whatever opportunities are after. Then I'll you know the focus. I try and narrow my focus as much as I can. Like focus on the next game, focus on the game after that, and then when it's time to stop and reflect and see what my opportunities are, then I'll do all that stuff. But right now, the focus is how do we as a team get better and win games.
Fantastic. And right now you guys are undefeated. Have you gotten to watch PBA though, like how they play, their playing style, some of the do you know some of the players in the league? What do you think of the league overall?
I've watched a little bit, not a lot. I've been trying to watch a lot of UAAP games just to get a feel for all the teams. But I feel like it's very similar. Like the speed of the game is very similar to UAAP. Very different from watching like NBA, where there's so much isolation basketball. There is some there, but just trying to run, like get as many points as you can easy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um how how does the UAAP differ from college basketball in the States?
Um, I would say probably just in hmm, the biggest difference for me was probably like the sets and how the sets are run. Like in the US, a lot of sets are designed for one player to get a shot. Like you call a play and everyone knows kind of if we want this one player to get a shot right here, he's going to get that shot regardless of if the other team knows or not. Whereas here, it feels a lot more motion offense driven, where they call a play and then it's just keep running in the same or a similar pattern until you make a read that lets you score. So slight differences there. And then probably just again like pace of play, um, and then a little bit of just like how they ref the game as well. Just adjusting to that too. Like
You
it's
gotta
a little
admit
bit
though,
different in terms of the. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
go for it. Okay, you gotta admit the refs here can be quite a head scratcher sometimes, right?
Sometimes I try not to. The refs they're never an excuse. You learn to play with them. You got to adjust your game to how they're calling it. So just doing that and learning how they're doing it. So
Mateo here says you are too kind. QMB is one of the most eloquent speakers we've ever had in the podcast. We are fortunate to have him here. You said you've been researching some UAP games, watching UAP games. So I'm sure you've been watching the competition as well, not just the games of UP. So tell us, Q, which UAP players have impressed you, substantially? Or maybe not to such a high degree, but when you watch a player or a few players in the league right now, you're like, oh, this guy does this particularly well. And maybe I can try to learn something from him. Are there those guys in the league right now for you?
definitely KQ. Obviously he's like big time there. But just like looking at like guys we played against, even like Momaway, I thought that the way he plays is just using his size is very very strong. Obviously, like I think that next game when we play them, completely different. Like I think that I needed to adjust a little bit to how they were calling it, adjust to the defense that I needed to play. So, but he understood how they were going to call it. He understood and used that to his advantage. So being able to do that is something that I think is a piece I want to add to my game. Like depending on how the refs are going to call a game, then I can adjust my play a little bit more to be a little more aggressive, or maybe I need to back off a little bit, do something a little different. KQ, I think, is going to be a great matchup for us just as a team. Like how I think that our team defense needs to be, we need to just keep getting better, but we really will need to be clicking when we play. Um, so I think that probably the game I'm most excited for is De La Salle to end round one. I think that's the game I'm raring to go, but obviously we just got to focus right now, one game at a time. I think, as you said, Adamson had the 3 point to win the game, uh, buzzer beaters. So obviously they're feeling really good. So we'll need to be, completely locked in for Saturday's game first.
Definitely, and I'm sure many other people are also going to say that the LaSalle UP Finals rematch is the one they're looking forward to at the end of the first round. And interestingly enough, you weren't in those two games UP played against LaSalle in the Phil Oil off-season tournament. So to some degree, it's like a new wrinkle is being added in the mix with you being played. I'm excited to see that game. It's going to be very interesting. Okay, we have a lot of great questions that people have sent in. Let's see. I want to find one that's interesting here. From Kieran, UP related. What is your hardest class this semester, Q?
Probably Phil 3, just like learning Tagalog. Um, that would probably be the one. Just it's probably the most useful to me, but also like just hearing it and just learning a different language is just hard in and of itself.
How's your Tagalog coming? Do you know any? Can you put together sentences yet?
I understand a lot better than I can. It's like when you can understand something but don't necessarily know the words. Uh, so for me, I'm better at like hearing stuff and
Understanding,
comprehending and
yeah.
then responding than actually speaking Tagalog. My when I go out to eat with my titas and lolas and titos after the game, they like to try and throw like Tagalog questions at me and have me answer in English because they know I won't be able to respond in Tagalog yet. So they'll be asking me like, "Oh, which guys speak Bisayan? Which guys?" And then I'll have to figure out, okay, what are they asking me, and then respond.
Yeah, you're gonna have to surprise them with like a few sentences randomly one day, like totally just catch them off guard.
Mm-hmm.
From Enzo, were you at all familiar with the story of UP's basketball rise to contender status prior to coming in, or did someone just give you the lowdown after committing? Good question. Thank you, Enzo.
I did know. I did know. So when I first was contacted by UP, they were telling me like we're trying to get out of this drought. We have this long history of not succeeding, but we want to change that. We want to change the story around ourselves. So I did have some knowledge of, hey, they were trying to get out of the hole, and then they did it in '84, season '84. So, and then the 2 years of back to back heartbreaks and wanting to get back to that championship. Um, so I did have knowledge of that before I chose UP, and I think that it's winning a winning culture is really hard to protect, and learning how to protect it is important.
Thank you for that. Question here from Javi. Oh, Javi, what's up, bro? What was the hardest part about leaving the States?
Ooh. Probably just the like in order to stay connected with my family and friends back home, that time difference is big. The 12 hours from where I live to here, it's nice because in the mornings and afternoons, it's not too bad to call. It'll either be really early for them or late, but just adjusting to that and knowing like the middle of my day, if I'm in an off day, I can't call because they should be asleep. Like 1 o'clock, they should be asleep. 2 o'clock, they should be asleep. But that was probably the biggest adjustment for me because when I would just pick up the phone to call my parents or my sister, it would be like way late in the night and no response, and then I'd realize, oh shoot, it's not actually the middle of the day for them. It's
Yeah,
the middle of the
exactly.
night for them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I called you guys.
Do you need like more than an hour to just catch them up on everything, or are you guys like quick talkers where you just get the important details out and it's done, or do they want all the
No.
details? Do they want your feelings about certain things? Talk us through that because I'm sure they miss you like crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I can call them like in the morning and talk to them for an hour and a half, and then call them that night and still talk to them for another 2 hours. Like we'll just find anything to talk about, and that's how we've always been. Just we like to just be with each other, whether it's in person or not, finding ways to just share that camaraderie, whatever it is, whether it's something good happened, something bad happened. We just like to just talk. I tend to be the one who doesn't call as much, but they call me all the time. I'll call them too, but I'm definitely the one who's like, okay, I'm focused on the next thing I'm doing here, less so about calling. And my sister calls me and she'll say, "Hey, call me when you wake up." If she doesn't get me, if it's later or if it's in the morning, like, "Hey, you're probably at practice. Like, call me after practice. Miss you."
Have they ever called you while you were in class and your phone rang in front of everybody, or not yet?
No, not yet, not yet. They're pretty good about sticking to our kind of like times that we've figured out, morning and night. Like
Got you,
around
got
seven
you.
o'clock is usually seven on either side of is about the right time for both of us.
Good question here from Shaniez. Which NBA team do you root for, and who is your favorite NBA player in the league right now?
So growing up, I was always a Spurs fan. I loved watching Tim Duncan.
Whoa, Duncan Popovich Spurs. I I am
Absolutely. I
like
just think they play basketball the best way.
I am not surprised at all. They totally fit like your person. Anyway, go on. I'm just like I just need to get that out because it feels fitting. But go on, Q.
Yeah, no, I think the Spurs just they play basketball the right way. They're not selfish. They're focused on winning. It's what can I do to help the team win every day. It's not how can the team help me get my stats, which I feel sometimes happens in other programs. Obviously, Wembiana, I'm excited to see what he does in this next year after being his rookie year. He was able to lift and I'm sure develop and just get bigger and stronger for himself because it's such a big and strong league. But with his length, obviously, that's such a mix up. I love watching Jokic, the way he can pass the ball, amazing. Just the things that he can do for his team without being the most athletic person on the floor. Fun. Um, who else? Just there's so many guys in the NBA who are just so much fun to watch, but probably those two are the ones who I go to when I'm like, who do I want to watch and what do I want to see? Jokic with his passing ability and Wembiana just with what's he going to do today? What's it going to be?
Wow, I can't. Do you think they can make the play-in or the playoffs this year? I think they can with
I think they
CP
can.
and
I think
Wemby
it's,
and Barnes.
yeah, what I've always said is just Wemby has to stay healthy. He has to stay healthy for
Yeah,
the early part of his career. A lot of guys like Embiid, just if you get hurt, like it
it's
almost
tough.
is like as a big, it's so hard to come back from injury. Like AD got hurt and then bounced back and forth between healthy and hurt for a little bit. But if he can just stay healthy, that's all I want to see. I just he doesn't have to have the craziest stat line so long as he's healthy for the first couple of years until his body is prepared to play 82 games because 82
Right.
is so many games every season.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially when you're going at that pace against guys that athletic and that strong as well. It takes
Mm-hmm.
crazy guts and courage. That's why I respect to them all the time. Let's see another. Oh, do you follow the NFL as well? Did you follow the NFL growing up too?
Not really. It was really always basketball. So um, a little bit, but not. I don't really have like a favorite team that I would claim. The Commanders in Washington, but it was never really what my family put on. We would always it was either basketball or just hanging out for us.
Was the whole household a Spurs fan, or did you guys have
No, my
different
dad
teams?
my dad actually didn't watch basketball until I started playing. So he was a fencer and a martial artist, which are not
Oh,
really sports you can. They're not really spectator sports. There's not really like a league to watch them. So for him, he just it was like never really like watching sports. He liked watching his just dramas or cartoon shows oh like the Powers, the Flash,
Power
Arrow, all
Rangers.
that stuff.
Oh, Flash Arrow on CW. Yeah. Hey, your dad
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like a
on
cool
CW.
guy.
Yeah, he is definitely a cool guy. But he that was always what he was watching until I started playing basketball, and then we started watching basketball together.
So, are you also into comic books and superhero movies and that fandom? The So, if you were to be any of the superheroes, Marvel or DC, who would you be if you had to pick one?
Doctor Strange, absolutely. He's like the weird one, but I love the fact that he's so different. Like he's not just like a standard like super strong, super smart, super fast. He's kind of got like a little mix of everything.
And he's got those witty remarks, right, that are always like timely for some reason.
Hmm.
Interesting. Okay, let me take one more question here before I get back to my conversation with QMB. This one from Mika. So far, do you have a preference between MOBA Arena or Smart Araneta Coliseum?
Uh, I like the feel of Moa, but I don't like the drive. Arnett is a much better drive for us, but I like the feel of Moa.
Interesting. Interesting. Awesome.
Yeah, Moa feels more
That is
like
actually a good topic.
college.
Oh, because of the lights, the spotlights, and
The
everything.
lights and the boxes, having like the box seating, the way that just the way it's like the way
The
it
way it's
goes
put
up,
together. Yeah.
whereas Arnett kind of just goes out. It feels so wide.
Correct. Correct. Agree. Some people though, when they watch games with Arnetta, they say stuff like you can hear the ghosts of all the events of all the years of, like the Trilla in Manila, all the close UAP games. Mo Arena is still relatively young, about I think 12, 13 years old. So there's time to add up some memories. Araneta has the historical side of it, and Tita Terry
Mhm.
from Nowhere to Go But Up also says Moa is UP's lucky arena because MOA is where UP won their championship in season 84 and the two seasons after. No, we're not going to get into that. Let's get back to our conversation here with QMB. And yes, I will ask more questions later on. He has been very generous by answering questions from everybody for us to get the chance to know him, which we are very thankful for. I want to talk about your interests outside the basketball court. You said you have a mechanical engineering degree. Is that a field you would like to pursue or you may consider pursuing instead of basketball in the future? And what, like internships or projects related to your engineering have you embarked on in recent years?
Definitely something I want to pursue. I don't feel like it needs to be like instead of. I feel like it's something that I would like to use like or if I could find a way to combine it or like do it simultaneously, that would be ideal. For me, my thought had always been like you can't go back to basketball. Your body's not going to get younger, so pursue that while I can. And then when I'm done, then I'll look at maybe starting a engineering company or just whatever's exciting to me at that point in time. In undergrad, I what really excited me was energy and energy production because I feel like that's going to be a huge part of our future. Finding a way to produce more green energy, renewable energy sources. So for me, something that our professors were always talking about was how can you make something small that people can get. It doesn't have to be like the $1 billion building. It can be the $100 lawnmower or whatever that everyone buys to mow their grass. That's not gasoline or diesel. Instead, is battery powered and can be charged with the sun. Right. For
Mm-mm.
for them, it was like that's going to make more of an impact than one big project, something that everyone buys into, getting everyone to buy into it because it's both economically and environmentally impactful. So maybe after I'm done playing or in the time I'm off when I'm playing, I would like to pursue something like that. or we'll see what comes up in the next several years because technology is always advancing. You never know what's going to be produced, what someone's going to figure out, what someone is going to design that's going to excite the world.
I'm curious though. You did say technology is advancing, and for someone like me in the media industry, that has a lot to do with social media and media in general too. But technology, it's widespread. You look at cars nowadays. You have smart cars. You have cars that, if you show the cars today to people 67, if you showed your Lolo a car from today, he'd be like probably like whoa, right? And we have technological advancements with buildings and, like I said, automobiles, even planes and different, even lighting equipment. Everything now is so tech oriented, and that's why tech jobs are in demand, not just in the United States now, but in so many areas of the world. Where do you find the balance of, I like to immerse myself in this new wave of technological advancement and technological opportunities, but where do you cut off where you're like, you know what? I need to still find a way to connect with nature. I need to find a way to connect with Mother Earth and what's around. I need to go out and touch grass, and not
Mhm.
just be way too much into, you know, gadgets and developments and prototypes and beta tests and alpha tests. And I can just unwind and be with the universe. Do you have that type of spiritual connection that you've developed over the years? Because if I were to assume right now, I would say probably yes, right?
Yes, definitely. I like to just give myself some time to just reflect every day, whether that's in the morning or before I go to bed. Just reflect on what my goals for the day were or are, and did I achieve them? What kind of held me back from my goals? What is holding me back? Kind of what's weighing down on me, and how can I kind of focus on removing the obstructions in my path? I think that the balance really lies in just not getting so caught up in the next thing, but taking a moment every day to just appreciate what's around you. Finding that way to just give thanks for what I have, give thanks for what I have the ability to do that a lot of people would, die for the opportunity to play at UP. So just making sure I take a moment to just appreciate what I have that others don't have the opportunity to, but also realizing it's an honor too.
Some people have different mental techniques or even spiritual techniques that they utilize to go about their everyday. A friend was telling me this recently where he said, if you count to five before you do something and then you decide to do it, it actually becomes easier to do it. So, for example, your alarm clock is ringing. Last few days, you've snoozed it a few times because you wanted to catch some extra sleep, but you need to get up because today you have like an important meeting or an important call, or you just want to get up and maybe work out, do something good for yourself, do some yoga, right? She said, count to five. One, two, three, four, five. Then just do it. And at first, it sounds a little bit funny, right? Because it's like delaying the procrastination, it's like adding to the problem. But when you think about it, sometimes giving yourself that primer and counting actually wires your mind to some degree to do it. Now, I bring that up because someone like you into mechanical engineering, pursuing a basketball career, maintaining your connections with your family and your other interests, I'm sure there are mental techniques and tips that you have in mind or you utilize so that you were able to go about your day and, like you said, narrow your focus into what's in the present and what's in the moment. So, would you mind sharing some of your mental tips and techniques that you use to be able to do what you do every single day?
Yeah, so for me, just I like to try and compartmentalize everything, like check boxes, if you will. Like, okay, today my list is 5 items long, right? Practice, call my mom and dad and sister, gotta go eat, gotta go get some extra shots, and find a time to do recovery. So then with each part of the day, like whatever I achieve, just check it off, right? It's like so simple, but sometimes just the feeling of checking something off, whether it's in your head or even on paper, right? If I know I have a lot of things, I'll write it all down on a list and then take that with me, put it in my bag. and then check things off, because the feeling of checking something off is almost like a little reward, right? It's like tricking yourself into thinking, hey, this is a little dessert, like a little mind dessert. I got was able to do that. Cool. And then as you get kind of closer and closer to the end of your list, you start to get really motivated to finish those last couple of items, because then I'm done. I can do whatever I want now, right? So now I can watch TV, I can play video games, I can insert whatever it is you like to do in your free time. So for me,
Absolutely.
that's how I
Great.
like to view it.
Great, great. I like doing that too. Sometimes I even try to separate. I do three professional accomplishments in a day and three personal accomplishments in a day. And those days where I check all six of them, I feel like the most successful person in the world. But you're right. Sometimes it's about just mentally wiring your brain into thinking about you can actually do this. So thank you for that tip. Do you do yoga as well? Do you practice yoga, practice meditation?
So I've definitely done yoga before. I don't do it necessarily like as a routine, but I meditate. I like to meditate as much as I can. I think that like 5 to 10 minutes for me, meditation isn't. It doesn't need to be a really long thing. It can be as simple as 5 minutes in the middle of your day, 15 minutes when you wake up, 15 minutes before you go to bed. It's kind of a for me, it's like flossing, right? Like it's a mental flossing there. Like just doing it every day becomes a habit. It's a great way to just take a step back and appreciate what's around you. Take a moment to just connect, as we were talking about before. Like, how do I connect with nature around me? How do I connect with, sorry, my earbuds are falling out here.
That's all good.
How do I just, how do I stay grounded in this moment? And in the US, I spent a lot of time just working with different sports psychics. So a lot of them just talked about, to stay grounded, it's not necessarily needing this really long routine. It's as simple as giving yourself a few minutes, right? Just giving yourself the 5 minutes or whatever you need to relax your mind, empty it, and reattack your day with the same focus you started it with.
Absolutely. Great thoughts. And I agree. Sometimes the simple steps could be the steps that lead to the best, not exactly rewards, but the best feelings about yourself, particularly. All right, let's get to some questions here. Oh, wait, no, there's one thing I wanted to ask because you mentioned video games. Give me your favorite video games of all time. Like, are you a
Ooh,
multiplayer kind of guy? Are you a single player RPG type of
absolutely.
guy? So tell me,
Uh,
top five all time. Give it to me. Top five.
Top five all time. Oh man, going back to when I was a kid, Minecraft with all of my friends.
Ooh,
That way we could
classic.
all play together. Um, Video games is how a lot of us have found ways to stay in touch with each other. So Stardew for a more relaxing kind of game. Valorant or CS:GO, those and then Rocket League probably
Mm.
would be
So a lot of
top five
multiplayer
right
games
there.
where you play with friends as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Yeah,
where
so
are you in
all in
terms of
college.
in the UP Maroons team right now? Where are you in terms of the best at Valorant?
Oh, probably the worst. That's a game I struggle with, but all of my friends love it, so I'll play with them. But I'm probably the worst. I would probably be the worst on every team. I struggle. It's not
Who's
a
the
game I'm
best
good at,
gamer in the
but
team? If you had to say, who's the best gamer in the team right now?
mm, maybe Aldos. It's hard to say. Um, I've played like a little bit, but I haven't played a ton of video games, like console games with the guys. Probably Aldos though.
Are you using the Spurs on 2K if you're on 2K?
If we played 2K, I would definitely be playing Spurs. It's
Wemby's
definitely
kind
not
of
a team
cheat
that
code
everyone would be upset
sometimes.
at. Sometimes,
Oh, that's
sometimes, but
that's for sure.
it's not like playing with LeBron and the Lakers or
Or
Nuggets.
Giannis. Yeah.
Yeah, Giannis.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
I get you. I get you. All right, let's get to some questions here from Mitch. She wants to know what are some of your favorite songs and who are some of your favorite artists?
Ooh. So Bad Sons is a band that I really liked. I'm kind of like aside from that, I like a little older music. So classic rock is what I grew up listening to with my dad. So ZZ Top, Rolling Stones, Blue Oyster Cult. Um, when we would go to games, that's what my dad would play on the car rides. So I listened to a lot of just you know old head
Guns
stuff,
N'
and
Roses.
a lot of my teammates say that I listen to old head music, but it's just what I enjoy.
Not surprised, man. You really would have been the perfect San Antonio Spur for Coach Greg Popovich. That's for sure. Let's see what else is here. Oh, from Stalgaze, what are your game day rituals?
Oof. Uh, when I wake up, I just like to give myself about 20 to 30 minutes to just stop and just reflect on where I am today, like what got me here, focusing on what got me to where I am today. So just appreciating, taking a moment to appreciate. And then after that, it's about getting ready. So my rituals really start the night before. I like to drink like a whole 2 liter electrolyte, and that just started when I got a couple of cramps in the States. My nutritionist said, "You have to drink this." And she handed me like the big bottle of Gatorade or Powerade or Pedialyte, whatever, the night before. So it's really started the night before, just making sure I finish a whole bottle of electrolytes, then making sure I get a good meal. After, but then my timeline's all out of whack here. So let me start at the beginning. Electrolytes, sleep, give myself at least 8 to 10 hours. Wake up, 20 to 30 minutes, just meditate, appreciate where I'm at, how I got here, and then eat. Get a good breakfast. So get a lot of carbs in at breakfast, some good proteins, and then usually we leave between noon and 3, depending on what time our game is. So lunch will be after a little bit. Watch film on what the coaches have sent us before I head to the gym, and then once I'm at the gym, just a couple of free throws, 50 to 100, get on the bus, and then head out to the game.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see. I like this question from Pancho. What are your thoughts, QMB, on student athletes getting paid? It was a big issue in the US for some time, and then the NIL was introduced. And in the Philippines too, it has been a topic about student athletes getting paid, certain amounts. Where do you stand on that?
I think that specifically in the U.S. is the one where I can speak the most on it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that there needs to be a little bit more regulation than this NIL era. I feel like it's kind of some schools have gone way beyond, but I do think that it's appropriate for student athletes to get compensation for playing and being the main attraction to sporting events, right? Like you look at March Madness, you look at the NCAA college football playoffs, they attract tens of millions of fans and viewers, and the revenue that they create should be shared amongst the players who create that attention, create that attraction. So I don't think that it's a bad thing. I think that there needs to be a better regulation of it, though, because it almost feels like when California passed that law, it almost became like no rules for a little bit, and then now there's the pretense of some rules around it, like, oh well, we're gonna tax that. You have to report, what you make for tax purposes, this and the other thing, but lots of teams are still paying well beyond what they probably should be paying to players. So I think that if there was a way to make it a little more equitable, almost like create a cap, right? You could create like, sure, the if your team is generating $200 million for revenue, we're going to allow you to pay your players, and everyone in the league agrees, say $10 million can be distributed amongst your players, however you as the coaching staff decide, right? Then everyone knows there's 10 million in the pot for this school, that school, that school, and it
Mm,
allows them to create a more even playing field for everyone within a conference.
absolutely.
But
I like the way you explained it. Go on, go on.
for me, that's just how I feel on it. I think that if they could make everything even, That would be better because then that would really keep the focus of the sport in mind rather than the focus of profit.
Absolutely. Very well said. And you make some great points too. If there is a way to regulate it and do it accurately, it could be helpful not just in the United States, but I think in the Philippines as well. Before I let you go here, because I know you're probably gonna finish like, oh wait, you don't have a game tomorrow, so you don't have to finish a bunch of
Okay.
electrolytes tonight. But you might be finishing a bunch of absolute waters because some UP fans here in the spectator section have mentioned they've seen you a few times holding like giant absolute water bottles. That's for hydration, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that 4 liter. Just kind of when I first got to the Philippines, everyone was like, just drink bottled water. Don't drink tap water yet. So I just kind of got used to carrying that around, and now it's just kind of a staple of what I carry around with me everywhere I go. Having a big bottle of water just in case I need it.
Yeah, please don't drink the tap water, man, unless you know it's 100% safe. You are doing good by going with the bottled water. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Of course, we're very thankful to Quentin Millora-Brown for joining us and enlightening us with so many great thoughts. If you guys haven't yet, do subscribe to the channel, whether you're watching on playback or YouTube, or follow on Facebook. So, Q, before I let you go here, I want to ask one more question. I'm sure it would have been great if you got to play more than one season with UP and really build a multi-year relationship with the community, with the fans, with the UAAP family, which, given the short amount of time and how quickly the season goes by, I'm sure it feels like it's going like the flash, real quick, you know. But given the short amount of time and given you're narrowing your focus on what's in front of you right now, what do you want to accomplish over these next few months that when you look back on it 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you can tell yourself, I'm very thankful for the time I spent at UP in that part of my life?
I think it's just that culture of winning, like we mentioned before, just finding a way to protect a winning culture, right? I think that ideally for me, I would want to win UAAP, want to be champions, but also want the team to be just as prepared for success next year as this year, right? I think I'm a big believer in teaching and learning from everyone. So I think that the experience I bring in, I'm doing my very best to help share it with amongst the guys that I can. And I think that if I can look back 10 years from now and say, I helped continue and maintain that winning culture, then I'll be proud of myself.
That winning culture. It's all about winning. For Quentin Millora Brown on and off the court. Quentin, thanks so much for joining me on this Wednesday evening. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you, not just about basketball, about everything that we spoke about. I hope those who listen to this podcast, like you said, learn quite a few things that they can take with them. I know I did, like I mentioned to you earlier about how your parents brought you up. That was very, very encouraging to hear about. And I'm looking forward to see you more at the game, seeing you play for the UP Fighting Maroons. You guys are playing on Saturday. I wish you the best of luck. And again, thank you so much for your time, bro.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. You're welcome back anytime. Good night, Quentin. Thank you.
Good night.
All right, what a great, great, great episode that was with QMB. He shared a lot of thoughts, stories, and knowledge with all of us. And I would like to thank all of you for coming. Really, honestly, that's the best thing I can say right now. Kind of at a loss for words. This was a great, great episode. We haven't had an episode like this in a while. But for those of you who spent the whole episode watching, I mean, thank you so much, really, because that's what it's about. We love to have great conversations. We love to bring the community together. We love to meet new people that we can bring into this community, this podcast. So while I have some of you here, I do want to share we've had quite a few episodes as of late. Yesterday, I spoke with Anton Asistio of the Rain or Shine Painters. So you can check out the replay section of that if you guys want to watch it. And then 2 days ago, we spoke to John Abate of the UE Red Warriors after they beat DLSU. And he shared a lot of great insights as well. Shout out to John Haboneta, former UP Fighting Maroon right now in this podcast episode. tuning in. Shout out to Tita Terry. Shout out to Pancho, to Mateo, to Mitch. I can't start because if I start acknowledging all of you one by one, I feel like to Attorney Jong. If I start acknowledging you all one by one, I feel like I might miss a few people. And I don't want to do that. But again, just thank you everybody. More episodes to come. Yes, I do want to have Alan Liwag on eventually for our CSB people. I have spoken to Manti Montebon. We might try to do that at the end of the first round. But okay, enough spoiling from me. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And while you guys are here, I'm just gonna pump up my friend Vic a little bit. Check out his Instagram account, the Good Doctor PH, for items to help you with your nutrition and well-being and supplements you might need for your everyday life. Go support my friend. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Till next time, to more episodes, to more great episodes to come. Bye.